President Trump is on his way home after wrapping his two-day summit in Beijing. It was handshakes, champagne toasts, and 2.5-hour bilateral sit-down with Xi Jinping that covered everything from Iran to fentanyl. But what President didn't say might be most important. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Jackie DeAngelis, along with my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Dave McDowell, Brian Bremberg, and with us for the hour, Fox Business contributor Lou Bassanese. The president is selling the summit as a fantastic win. That's a quote. And that deals are now in motion. But China walked away with its biggest question left unanswered.
Would the U.S. defend Taiwan if it came to it?
I don't want to say. I'm not going to say that. There's only one person that knows that. You know who it is? Me. I'm the only person. That question was asked to me today by President Xi. I said, I don't talk about those.
He asked you today. He asked you if you would send troops, if you would defend.
He asked me if I defend them. I said, I don't talk about that.
The headline win from the summit was energy, with Beijing ready to buy more American oil. Watch.
One thing I think that we're going to make a deal on, they've agreed they want to buy oil from the United States. They're going to go to Texas. We're going to start sending Chinese ships to Texas and to Louisiana and to Alaska. And I think that was another thing that was agreed to. That's a big thing.
What about liquefied natural gas?
It's not that much longer.
Gas too?
Yeah, everything. Energy.
Energy.
That's the one thing. They really need energy. That's the one thing. They have an insatiable appetite for energy, and we have unlimited energy.
And there are so many important issues that came out of this summit, but that to me was the most important and the one, Lou, that I was waiting for, given the context of what's happening in the Middle East right now. You want to steer China away and bring them to us where we can manage exactly what's going on. It seems that Xi is amenable to that. However, he said things in the past and then not followed through.
Look, I think we have the framework for a deal. We're talking about banking deals. This is a term sheet, not a transaction. You said the word manage, and I think that's key for Xi. He's managing his risk, his political risk in the Middle East for a critical supply of energy. And I think most encouraging for the U.S. is there's so much upside here. If we look back to when we were exporting to China in 2024, we're doing about 200,000 barrels a day. The peak was about 400,000 barrels a day, and that's only about 4% of China's imports. So we have a lot of room to grow that energy independence into their dependence on us. I think it's smart politically for China. I think it's also smart for the president, right? They're all in, chips are in the middle of the table. He's still not showing all his cards, particularly on Taiwan, because he knows he's got to keep that back in case Xi, like you said, doesn't move forward. Well, how many of these summits and deals and discussions and negotiations come out with headlines and then we don't see anything actually in terms of policy 3-4 weeks later?
That was the one place where Xi flexed a little bit and gave the president a warning, if you will. He's holding that card too. But let's stick with energy for a moment before we move on. Brian, the Strait of Hormuz, still a big issue. Wondering next week what's going to happen with President Trump and his Iran strategy with the Strait and also just with that country and its regime in general. It seemed like Xi this week was also saying, I don't want to see the Strait closed, Right. As much as China can back us, they are in a, it's like hard for me to even get it out. But you know what I mean? They seem to be on the same page.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you buy that they're really going to do anything helpful for us in the Strait?
It's hard for me.
I don't. I don't think they will. I think the Strait's I've said a million times in this show, I say it all the time, in and out. Good guys, Iran, no. That's what has to happen to the Strait. I don't think China's going to help us with it. They say...
I don't think they're going to physically help, but they might not hinder. They might not arm the Iranians in a way that might hinder.
Don't they
I'm
have
thinking
to?
more like that.
At some point, they have to. They have to cry uncle because they rely on the Strait more than anyone else.
And China has been telling Iran even before the summit that it was not going to be paying tolls to get oil.
Only so many illegal barrels they can pull off the
Okay, so that's great. China's not going to get in the way. I'm with all you guys. They're not going to help. They're not going to do bad things. Fine. I don't want Chinese warships in the Strait. Just to be clear, if they help, it's like what's the of mice and men, right? Lenny's like petting the mouse and he
breaks the neck.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. If China sends warships into the Strait, it's not good news for us. So I don't want them there. I like this summit. The trade stuff, I think they are going to become more dependent for us in energy, and I think that's great. I think Venezuela is going to be a big part of that, by the way. I think that's good. They said they want to buy more soybeans. I will believe that when they have paid us for the soybeans, okay? The term sheet's not interesting to me because they have signed a lot of term sheets in the past. I think the big win, Jackie, was On Taiwan, I actually really like the president's answer. If that's what he said, and I think he did say, I'm not talking about it. I'm not talking about it. And what that says is it's not open for discussion. I'm not here to discuss Taiwan with you. I know that you want to. Maybe you're desperate for an answer because your domestic politics need you to get a win. We're not talking about it. And then Rubio says policy hasn't changed. That, to me, is exactly what you want.
So they're keeping it close to the vest, and they're kind of leaving it there. They don't want any misinterpretation. She said something about the United States, and the president responded to it about that how the West is declining. Let's listen to this.
You said that President Xi had made a reference to the decline of the U.S.
He said that it was a declining country under Joe Biden. He said we had a seriously declining country, which we did, with people pouring in from all over the world, from prisons and everything else. He said what President Trump has done has been a virtual miracle. It's the hottest country anywhere in the world, and it is.
Take him.
It's true. It's flattery. But I know nothing except China is lying. I don't know how much China and Xi Jinping and the communists have lied, but they lie. I know our strength economically. I know our strength from an energy perspective. I know our strength because of AI. And that credit does go to President Trump because we were in decline under Joe Biden. In terms of our energy dominance, they wanted to control and even shut down artificial intelligence development, and our economy was on its ass. However, right now, and I will point to bond yields and the cost of borrowing in the United States. This is something that we are still trying to recover from. Can we put up the 10-year? So this is a level, I mentioned it on Monday and even Tuesday, because Jason Trennert was on the Bottom Line last week with Brian and myself, and he pointed out that of his two concerns, and I'll just repeat what he said and what I said on earlier in the week, of oil prices sticky. That was his first concern, and oil is indeed sticky. It's at 104 today, I think, West Texas Intermediate, despite the fact that the UAE announced it's building a second pipeline to bypass the Strait of Hormuz, completed next year. It's going to double the country's export capacity in Fujairah. The current pipeline has a capacity of 1.5 million, 1.8 million barrels a day. That's good news. Again, the Strait of Hormuz will never be the weapon that it was. Iran got one shot, you used it, and now it is never be as powerful. I digress. The second part is just borrowing and the fact that we are running mega stimulus fiscally and then even some monetary stimulus. The 10-year yield, when it gets above 4.5%, when you hit 450, you have indigestion in the stock market. That is a quote from Jason Trennert last week. The debt and deficits are real. These are real concerns for us and other central banks. Luckily, this isn't just a U.S. problem, it's a global problem, that longer-term yields have been going up all around the world in recent weeks.
Japan and the UK are hitting new highs, too.
Stop stealing my data points.
Well, but I have something specific for you that I saved.
I just wanted to finish up one thing. That in terms of the fear is not 3% inflation and 6% rates. It is that COVID inflation was not a one-time thing, and that it's not fading away. This 2% inflation, the new normal is 3%. And we have shown that no one in this country or even anywhere else is fiscally responsible. So we're gonna have this inflation and greater supply of debt down the road. And this is anticipatory. Question is, how high do these rates go? Because look at the 30-year. It's way over 5%.
And Taylor, I want to get your take on that, but I also was saving for you technology. The CEOs went over there, trade deals, investment. That's, the president is saying that this was all fantastic. Does it materialize?
Let's start with the bad news, and then we'll talk about the good news, because I think there is a lot of good news in your question. The bad news think to Dagan's point, this is not a U.S. thing. This is a global thing. Global bond yields are flashing major inflation concerns. The Japan 10-year just hit its highest in a decade. The 20-year just hit its highest since 1999. Japan's not building data centers. This isn't like, yay, growth is good, everything is great. It's like inflation is through the roof. So that's just my little caution there when we, again, bond yields are wonky, Japan bond yields are wonky, but the global bond market is telling us.
Big picture.
Big picture, there's something that we got to hit on when it comes to inflation. The good news is, let's start with New York manufacturing data this morning. We're crushing it. It was a 4-year high in May. The consensus was a -7. We hit almost a 20. So the manufacturing boom, data centers, technology, to your question, it is working, and you're starting to see green shoots of that here in the U.S. The bad news in that, the prices paid index in that just hit the highest since July of 2022, and that's when the Biden CPI was approaching that 9%-ish era. So manufacturing good, prices paid in that not so good, global bond yields not so good. Otherwise, I have a chart of the day, maybe not super great for TV. I'll put it out on social, but our chart of the day.
That's great for TV. Look at that.
Isn't it?
Wow.
This is from the New York Fed. The probability, they surveyed the average consumer. What's your probability of missing a debt payment? It just fell for another month down to just 11.4%, the lowest reading in more than 2 years. So delinquency rates are improving, but consumers did report deteriorating access to credit, some concerns over future financial stability, but they're not saying I'm going to miss a payment in the next room. I can still pay my bills in the next couple months. Again, the question is, how long does that last? With the chip makers, I know we'll talk about in a little bit, but to answer your question, come full circle, I don't think we got like massive wins, but the chip making market is on fire right now, and I think we can do it with or without China.
Thoughts?
Ooh, I don't think we can do it without China, and here's why.
I mean,
Taiwan. It's not even about chips,
sorry.
right?
What I meant by that, we don't need China to order NVIDIA chips for NVIDIA to survive and set new record highs in the U.S.
Totally agree with that. I
I'll
mean, I think you're seeing with the runaway IPO that is flopping like most ones, the FOMO IPO with Cerberus, demand for chips is off the charts. It's not going anywhere. I'd challenge you to find a negative data point from chip demand and sales. It just hasn't existed this earnings season. I think the posture of the president was really predictive of when he went to China. He brought basically the entire U.S. economy with him. Said, I'm not bringing messages from them. I'm not going to bring an envoy. I'm bringing the heads, the decision makers, $20 trillion worth of market cap. I think that's a testament to the strength of the underlying economy right now. It is completely reliant on AI, and Dagan and I, we've gone back and forth with this, and I think it's very healthy to be skeptical like she is. There's going to be pockets of weakness and overspending and debt, but by and large, this is not. I mean, Cisco proves it, right? It was the poster child. We talked about this yesterday. The poster child of the dot-com collapse didn't hit a new all-time high for 20 plus years, and now it's becoming the poster child of the AI boom. It wasn't first, it wasn't second, it was basically last, and it's showing.
Okay, but you have to wait a long while.
Yeah, you have to be in the AI race at all. Like, everyone's in it and everyone's winning. I hate to say you're getting a participation trophy as a public company to be involved in it.
You don't know who's winning, though. On the ground, there is the reality of what this technology will yield.
Yep.
A year, 5 years, 10 years, a quarter of a century, and stocks. Ability to, borrow money, your stock performance, you don't know yet.
Well, I know who's winning. Here's the problem.
Wait.
It changes tomorrow, and then it changes again, right? In terms of who's winning the most, right? It just keeps, the bottleneck keeps migrating. First, it was supply of chips, the GPUs and the CPUs, the compute. Then it moved to memory. Now it's moving to the optical connectivity we talked about. Why is Cerberus so attractive? We're not talking about, do we have enough power to compute and do all these computations? Can we move data around fast enough? So I feel like it's a moving target. Yes, there's going to be ultimate winners, but unlike every other tech boom, there's not going to be a number one and a number two market share and then a bunch of also-rans. I think it's going to be a lot of 10% market share players.
Right. I'm not skeptical of the AI. I'm not skeptical of any of that. I have voiced my concerns about the overspend, the bubbleliciousness of it. But the one thing I will point out with manufacturing, trucking and freight going great guns, this incredible moment in our economy with AI, then why in the hell do we need to be running a $2.3 trillion annual deficit if everything is going so
Because
great?
the children.
Yeah, that's
The
a
children's
drop
the right
in the
analogy,
bucket.
though.
Good to be a child right now.
That's
man.
a drop
a lot
in
of money.
But
That's
the,
a drop
the
in
children's the right
bucket.
analogy. It's too soon to reap the rewards of AI yet. We don't know what the profit gains are. I agree with you. We need to be fiscally responsible. But AI is not spinning off that profits. We're in a reinvestment cycle, not a reap the profits and pay down debt cycle. It's like raising kids, right? You don't see really how well of a parent you are until they turn 18
Finished
and they go out, and
product.
right? So we're not in the finished product yet of AI. I think you're right, though. I agree with you 1,000%. We have to get our deficit spending under control. What's the best way to do that? You can't just grow out of it. You actually got to focus on it, right? Grow and pay down. So.
Well, and cut.
Well,
But we're
yeah.
looking at a NASDAQ that's down 1.4% today, Taylor. So let's drill down on NVIDIA and Applied Materials.
This is wild, you guys. Okay, don't win the pop quiz. NVIDIA hit what market cap yesterday?
Trump C Summit.
5.7 trillion.
Oh, I thought it was 6.
Oh, we were getting really close to 6. It hit another record. It's up 20% in 7 trading sessions alone. Basically, all the hyperscaler CapEx has to go somewhere. It's going to NVIDIA. AMAT also, just quickly, they had a big beat on the top and the bottom line. 50% gross margin, strong forward guidance. They say the semiconductor business is going to grow 30% this year. You're seeing just a little bit of cool off again because of the massive run that we've had in chips.
You get the Comeback Player of the Year award.
Thank
for
you.
That
I
NVIDIA
did it
pick.
just for you. We
You
were
know,
so
my
close.
Merck, if I had a longer timer horizon, my Merck trade paid off too.
You did
I don't
really
think.
good at that.
You know, I was thinking about it this morning, just about the contest. Like they should be longer.
They should be longer.
That was all I was thinking about.
Because what do we tell people out there? We don't advise you to buy something and sell it 3 months later. We advise you to buy.
I don't
and
know.
hold.
Do you trade?
Thoughts
I'm
to our
crushing it.
producers.
No, you don't trade
Bring
either.
it back.
Oh. No,
Okay.
you got to get those long-term capital
Right.
gains.
Yeah.